person selected as the foreperson of the jury please stand? Juror number 1, are you the foreperson?
I am, Your Honor.
Please answer my questions. You may do so with a yes or no. Has the jury reached a unanimous verdict as to each of the respective offenses submitted to the jury and as to each respective defendant?
Yes, Your Honor.
Have you marked the verdict forms in accordance with the jury's unanimous verdict, signed and dated those forms?
Yes, Your Honor.
Are they in that envelope?
Yes, Your Honor.
You may hand it to the sheriff and have your seat. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, ma'am. Madam Clerk, please take the verdicts of the jury.
Stand.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, your foreperson has returned the following verdicts. In 1-4 CRS 218541, the State of North Carolina versus Kimberly Matthews, we the jury return as our unanimous verdicts that the defendant in count 1 is not guilty, count 2 not guilty, count 3 not guilty, count 4 not guilty, and in file number 1-4 CRS 218542, the State of North Carolina versus Charles Joseph Matthews, we the jury return as our unanimous verdicts that the defendant in count 1 is not guilty, count 2 not guilty, count 3 not guilty, and count 4 not guilty. Are these your verdicts, so say you all?
If those verdicts announced by the clerk as reported by your foreperson that in each case, each count, the respective defendants each is not guilty and as to each of the 4 respective counts, if those are your individual verdicts as well as the unanimous verdict of all 12, indicate so by raising your hand. All 12 jurors raised a hand in response to the court's inquiry. You may have a seat. Anything from the state with regard to the jury verdicts?
No, Your Honor, just thank them for their service.
The verdicts are, the court concludes the verdicts that in each case the defendant is not guilty of each of the submitted accounts, and the court concludes there being unanimous verdicts. Those are accepted by the court in order recorded. Thereupon the court says that the defendants are discharged. The court enters a judgment of dismissal of the charges. They are discharged from these charges.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Without my commenting on your verdicts, I thank you for your service. It would be inappropriate for me to comment regardless of your verdicts. This completes your jury service. All of those restrictions I put on you are lifted. If you would like to discuss your jury service, your deliberations with anyone, you may do so. I suggest you use complete candor and discretion if you choose to do so. It's not unusual if you want to do that. You may certainly do that. You're not eligible to serve again for a period of 2 years, so if you get a notice from the jury clerk or the sheriff for jury service within 2 years, you'll notice a duplication and error. Call the clerk's office, save yourself a trip back down here. We will stay here to deal with another matter related to this case in which Thomas Blake Matthews entered a plea of guilty earlier this week to the misdemeanor offense of purchase of alcohol by an underage person. We'll be proceeding to enter in judgment in that case shortly. You're welcome to stay for that if you would like to do so, but certainly not required to do so. If you need a certificate to verify your attendance for jury duty, you may get one from the jury clerk on the way out, or you may ask the jury clerk to mail one to you. Thank you on behalf of the people of Wake County and the state of North Carolina for your service. If you'd like to leave, you may do so at this time. Turn in your jury badges as you do. And if you'd like to stay, you're welcome to stay right there while we go into the next matter. I'm assuming we're ready to proceed with that. Are we ready?
Yes, sir, Your Honor.
All right. All right. Then the defendants Charles Matthews and Kimberly Matthews are discharged, as I said.
Thank you, Your Honor.
On Monday morning, Thomas Blake Matthews, who's before the court, entered a plea of guilty to the Class 1 misdemeanor offense of underage purchase of alcohol in violation of Chapter 18B-302B2 of the North Carolina General Statutes. Sentencing had been deferred until the conclusion of the trial of his parents. That trial is now concluded, and the court is preparing to proceed to judgment in this case. Will there be evidence for the state on sentencing, anything other than the prior showing?
No, Your Honor, I would just ask that you consider the evidence that you've heard during the course of
And
Matthew's trial.
he was submitted as a prior conviction level 1, is that right, with 0 prior convictions?
That is correct.
Will there be evidence for the defendant on sentencing?
Your Honor, not evidence per se, but if I could tell you a little bit about my client,
Yes, sir.
Thomas, at the appropriate time.
I'll hear from you right now, Mr. Smith.
Yes, sir, Your Honor. Your Honor, Thomas and J.T. Taylor were best friends, and he loved him like a brother. He always will. As you know, of course, and as just stated, Monday Thomas pled guilty to the underage purchase of liquor from the ABC store. That's what he did. These 4 kids went together to the ABC store, and Thomas went in and bought the alcohol. That's clear, and I know obviously you guys have been here all week and heard the evidence that's been presented. Your Honor, he admitted to doing that by pleading guilty on Monday, but way before Monday, he completely took responsibility for what he did that day. On July the 22nd, Thomas and myself and Sergeant Sean Hoolan, we met at my office in the conference room, and Sergeant Hoolan asked him anything he wanted to. I didn't sit there as a lawyer and object and try to stop him at all. Thomas told him everything that happened that night. He was completely truthful, and as I just want the court to know, immediately accepted responsibility for this. Thomas was 18 at the time that this happened, Your Honor, and he's currently 19 years old. Right now he's in summer school at George Washington University. He currently attends Rhodes College in Memphis, Tennessee. He has a 3.68 GPA. He plays on the varsity lacrosse team. He's a starting goalie, was last year as a freshman. He does lots of volunteer work, Your Honor. He works at the Purple House in Memphis, where he tutors younger kids in math, middle schoolers. He works at the Boys and Girls Club, where he also tutors kids in math and other subjects. He also volunteers his time at George Washington Hospital this summer, where he performs about 15 hours of community service per week. Your Honor, his dream is to become a physician and perhaps an endocrinologist. And I hope that you just take all of this into consideration, how young he is, and he has no prior record when you fashion your judgment, Your Honor. And I hope you keep in mind that he is in college out of state, and I hope that you would place him on unsupervised probation, sir. Thank you for allowing me to be heard.
Thank you, sir. You may have a seat. Mr. Waller.
Your Honor, you've heard the evidence in this case, and yes, Mr. Matthews did go and purchase that Jack Daniels that was shared amongst the 4 friends. I'll leave it in your discretion how to punish Thomas. He's not going to go to jail for this charge. Family knows that. Everyone knows that. However you want to sentence him is fine.
Thank you, Mr. Waller.
This offense, different from the offenses which his parents were charged, does not have the mandatory fine or community service requirement. Is that right?
That's my understanding, Your Honor. Yes, sir.
It does have a mandatory license.
A Chapter 20 matter.
Yes, sir. It does. He will have to surrender his driver's license or be reported to DMV.
This being a Class 1 misdemeanor, with a prior conviction level 1, the court must impose a community punishment, which means there is no imprisonment of any type allowed. I think it needs to be said that what this case and the case of Charles Thomas Matthews and Kimberly Hunt Matthews is not about compensating the Taylors for the loss of their son. There's nothing the court can do here to bring JT back to this earth to his parents. There's nothing to repair or remove the heartache that they have. Nothing will remove the feeling they likely have every morning when they wake up, that the loss of their son is still there. It's real, it's permanent. This case and the actions of these folks is about responsibility. Maybe beyond even legal responsibility should be a consideration for the future. Please stand up, Mr. Matthews. Anything else you would like to say?
JT will always be a memory for me. He will always stay with me physically, on my body, and in my heart. That's all I have to say.
Do you remember the last time you talked to him? That night, you don't remember it? Do you remember the last time you saw him?
Not with confidence.
I don't know what all you told Sergeant Hoolan, but I understood you answered any questions he has. But question still, that is still there of what precipitated JT driving that night after he'd requested his mother to come get him, and she indicated his father was on the way, and he made a decision to leave. You have anything to say about that? Sir?
Not tell you with confidence, sir.
What does that mean?
May I, Your Honor?
Yeah. When you
That was
say,
it.
well, when you say,
Yes, sir.
When you say not with confidence, does that mean because of the state you were in that night?
Yes, sir.
All right, go ahead.
Sergeant Hoolan, of course, asked about that. Everybody wants to know that. I want to know that. I'm a parent, Your Honor. Thomas just doesn't know. He and I have talked about that. He just doesn't know, Your Honor.
Your birthday is November 22, 1995?
Yes, sir.
Do you folks know whether Wake County probation officers allow out-of-state courtesy supervision without an actual transfer under the interstate compact, or do you know how that works?
I've dealt with that many times, Your Honor. They don't on a misdemeanor.
In most states, Virginia, for example, won't take a misdemeanor person on supervised probation.
Yes, sir.
That's been my experience, Judge Wood.
I don't know about Tennessee. It is the judgment of the court on a prior conviction level 1 with 0 prior convictions that the defendant be in prison for a term of 45 days in the Wake County Jail. As by law, this sentence must be suspended. Defendant is the sentence is suspended with 18 months unsupervised probation. He should comply with all the conditions of unsupervised probation and the further special conditions. Pay the cost of the action. Pay a community service fee. Perform 40 hours of community service within 6 months. Surrender his operator's license and not operate a motor vehicle upon the streets or highways of North Carolina without a valid license to do so. Now, those regular conditions of unsupervised probation include lots of conditions. Your lawyer will explain them to you. Since there's not a probation officer to explain them to you, take heed. They include commit no criminal offense, among other things. And you will be on probation until you are 21 years old. Am I right about that if I did my arithmetic right?
That sounds about right, Your Honor.
You'll be 20 this November, right?
Yes, sir.
Anything else state would request or suggest?
Thank you.
That's what I can impose. That's what I do impose. I assume he's ready to comply.
Yes, sir.
All right. That's the judgment.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Why don't you have us right there?
Anything else for the court at this time?
Okay.
That would be the business for the state for this week, sir.
Court stand in recess. Just stand in recess.
Motion to recess.